the Faculty of Engineering, in this case, Department of Mechanical Engineering, and supported by Boeing. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend our appreciation for your presence today. I also would like to greet the Dean of Faculty of Engineering, as well as Vice Dean, Faculty of Engineering, the Head of Mechanical Engineering Department, and Bu Veronica, Pak Dudi, Pak Bram from Boeing, and of course, our speaker today, Jonas Prasanna. So this event is conducted hybrid, where we have around 100 participants attending here in person in University of Jember in Faculty of Engineering's auditorium. And we have around 100 participants who will join virtually from different places. For information, the participants are students and academia, not only from Faculty of Engineering University of Jember, but also in other university. So first of all, to honor our country, let us all rise for listening of the Indonesian national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Hymne Universitas Jember. Everybody, please stand up. Come. So now we move to the next agenda. Let me now introduce our speaker of the day, Jonas Prasanna. Hi, Jonas. Great to see you. Let me give a brief introduction about him. Jonas Prasanna is currently responsible for supporting the Boeing Government Services team in Asia Pacific region. Under this purview, he connects, inspires teams, and enables employees to own their development. Prior to this role, Jonas was the HR partner supporting the international government and defense business for Boeing across Europe and Israel, Middle East, Far East, Japan and Korea, and Southeast Asia. Jonas is recognized as the top 20 HR influencers on social media by SHRM India, or Society of Human Resource Management, and Economic Times for several consecutive years. He has over a decade of experience in HR, and he has performed various roles as HR business partner, employer brand manager, learning and talent advisor across consumer electronics, lighting, information technology industries, and video on-demand startup. He holds Bachelor of Science in Information Technology and Master in Business Administration, or MBA, from the Indian Institute of Management. So we have Jonas today, and he will deliver several tips about how to create a professional CV. And as we know that creating a professional resume can be overwhelming. So how should it be formatted? And then Jonas will help you to answer that kind of question. So before the presentation begins, let's know the regulation, how the presentation will be going on. Firstly, I would like to give the time to Jonas to present the material for about 60 minutes. Following that, we will have a Q&A session for approximately 30 minutes. And finally, the session will be ended by conclusion. And for students, throughout the lecture, we encourage you to take notes and hold on to any questions you might have until the end. The speaker will aim to answer as many questions as possible during the allocated Q&A time. So without further ado, let's dive into this lecture. So Jonas, time is yours. Yeah, Jonas, so we have a good hope that you are able to, you could speak slowly just because the participants mostly are students. So I just want to make sure that all the participants can understand what are you trying to say. Yeah, thank you. The time is yours.
Yes. Yes. First of all, Terima kasih Bala and the University Jember team, mechanical department team, as well as the students. Salamat pagi, the students, faculty, and organizers. A big namaste from India, and I hope this lecture will be useful for the students and the faculty members. So I will keep in mind, I will speak slowly during this lecture. And if there are questions, especially for those who are virtual, you can always ask these questions on chat. And Vela, I would request you to let me know if there are any questions that are coming. with that, let me start with the first part of our presentation. As you can see over here, is a resume, a sample resume. In 30 seconds, can you tell me what can you understand from this resume? Please use the chat or take down notes. What can you tell me about this resume in 30 seconds? 30 seconds are up. So the question is, please introduce the applicant from the resume that you have just reviewed. So you can use chat. If there is audio in the in-person room, you can use the audio as well. So any comments on chat, or you can come off mute. That's also fine. What did you understand from the resume? Or introduce the applicant from the resume.
I only see an aerospace title, a degree or something, with a bachelor and master aerospace.
Yes. Okay. So at that entire resume, you could only see aerospace. That's the thing that caught your attention. Now, the question is, why did we do this exercise? This is how your resume gets perceived by a recruiter. Anywhere between 15 to 30 seconds is what a recruiter in a company, in an organization, or a hiring manager spends time on your resume. You might have 3, 4, 5 pages of resume where you have put in all the content about your entire life. But what is the style that is spent by a recruiter or a hiring manager? It's that 15 to 30 seconds. So how do you grab their attention? How do you get the hiring manager or the recruiter to consider, to approve of your resume so that you can go to the next step in the hiring process? That is the question that we are answering today. On an average, every single job requisition, especially in Boeing, for every single job requisition, we get an average of 300 resumes. The industry average is anywhere between 50 to 250. So imagine the hiring manager needs to go through 300 resumes to find the perfect people to interview. They don't have time. And so your resume needs to convey the right information to them so that they can consider looking at your CV for for the interview process. So that is the big challenge that we have when it comes to resumes. And so what I would be covering today as part of our lecture is help you understand why a resume is required. We will do a live case study of resumes so that you have the practical experience to be able to understand, to figure out what are the errors. And then I'm hoping at the end of this lecture, you can go back on your laptops or on your desktops and then make those changes to your resumes based on the tips and tricks we will be discussing today. I've also provided in this lecture a readiness checklist, a resume readiness checklist, which ensures that these critical information is available and it's present in your resume so that it has the highest chance of success. And last but not least, we'll also talk a little bit about Boeing's university hiring and how we do this. So if there are other expectations that you have from this lecture, please use the chat or convey to Bella, the expectations, and we'll try and answer anything that is out of the lecture syllabus here in the Q&A. Okay. With that, we will go straight into what is the purpose of a resume. The purpose of a resume is not to put your entire life history. The purpose of your resume is to help you get an interview. Remember the statistics that I shared with you a few slides ago? You are competing with nearly 300 people applying to a job when you are looking at applying to Boeing. And the hiring manager has maybe only about 5 or 10 slots for interviews. So your resume helps, the purpose of your resume is to help you get to the interview stage, to help you get shortlisted for an interview. If your resume is able to do that, then you have written a good resume. If your resume is not able to do that, then there are two things that could be the problem. One, it does not have the right information. And number two, maybe it's not the right job for you. So those are the two things that can come out of this. So what I would like to hear from people is that please use the emoji if there is an emoji option to tell me if does this make sense? Does this is it a thumbs up? Is it a thumbs down? Purpose of a resume. I'm not sure if there are emoji option is there, but use the comments then so that I can understand from you if what I'm saying makes sense to you. Okay. Now we will go into doing a live case study of a resume. What we will do in the case study is to review a resume, find out what are the good things about the resume and what are the not so good things about the resume. What are the things that are wrong about the resume? And that way, I'm hoping that you will learn what is the right way to do it. Okay. So we have 60 seconds. This is only page 1 of the resume. Just take a few minutes to go through the resume and tell me what are the good things about this resume and what are the errors in this resume. There are a lot of good things. There are also many errors in this resume. So just take a few minutes. If you have your notepads, please write it down. You know, the things that are good about this resume and the things that are errors. Give it 1 more minute so that you have time to read through this. Please use the chat to list down what are the good things about this resume.
So anyone can show the errors?
We'll start with the good things about the resume and then we will talk about them. Okay, so let's, so if anyone would like to volunteer to come off mute or to put it in the chat or in the room, please tell me what are the good things about this resume.
So anyone here want to show the good thing or the bad thing? Nggak ada. Ayo coba siapa? Coba dari siapa ada nggak yang bisa menunjukkan tadi di CV tadi itu kira-kira mana yang bagian-bagian yang apa yang bisa bagus atau yang kurang? Tahu nggak? Yeah, maybe from Mr. Fahrul. The good thing, I think, is about the thesis title. Usually it represents the latest research and gives some knowledge about the applicant skill.
Yes. Yeah, very good. That's a good thing. Yes, absolutely.
Anyone else?
Okay. We're still getting warmed up.
Yeah,
It's
go
9
ahead.
o'clock in the morning, so I will give a few hints. Okay. So the good thing about this resume, so I've underlined it in green. So he has a professional email address. So this is important. Why is a professional email address important? Because this is the way that the company will interact with you. So if you have a funny email address, like for example, cooldude67@gmail.com, that's not a professional email address. So it's always recommended to have your name or an abbreviation of your name as part of your email address so people can contact you. So that's number one. The second thing is this person has provided a link to their LinkedIn. That is another place where people look at your professional experience. This is a social networking platform for professionals. So that's a good thing. The professional summary is also another good thing. The first line tells you who the person is. He is passionate about aerospace engineering. He has experience in robotics and has interest in autonomous flight for drones and unmanned aerial vehicles. So that is the positive. So remember again, the person just has 15 to 30 seconds to make the decision whether it's the right person to interview and understand further. So it's very important to have a good professional summary, which tells the interviewer or the hiring manager or the recruiter that this is the right person for the job. Second, the third thing is the phone number. Please have an active phone number because again, the recruiter might call you and ask for additional information or set up an interview. So if your phone is not working or you don't have an active phone number, that is a disaster because then the person will go to the next candidate and you will miss that opportunity. Okay. What are the negatives? So some of you might have this thing that I need to provide my photo. My recommendation is unless you are doing activities that require people to know or see your face. For example, you want to become a professional actor in movies, or you would like to do modeling, there is no need to have your photo there. Because those are the professions that require people to understand how you look like. If you are applying for a technical job, if you are applying for any other professional job, there is no need for a photo. Complete address. This is another thing that is not required. Why it was required earlier, in the past? Because before emails, the only way to contact a candidate was through their home address. But nowadays, most of the communication happens through email, through digital. So there is no need to provide your complete address in your resume. Then, if you notice, there are many abbreviations listed here: VTO, UAS, etc. Now, when you are providing abbreviations, it's important to provide the expanded form of the abbreviation. What does VTOL mean? What does UAS mean? So it is important to provide abbreviations. If not, don't provide the abbreviation, the expanded form of the abbreviation. Another thing is date of birth. This is again not a required information. Date of birth is a personally identifiable information, and you don't want to keep sharing that with people. So that is also something that is important. Unless the job requires a specified age limit to apply, providing date of birth is not a requirement. Then the person has connected themselves to Instagram and Facebook. Now, this is you are applying to a professional company, to an organization. So you don't want to highlight your Instagram or your Facebook profile because that is your personal information. You might have, fun pictures over there, but it does not convey a professional look to your, to your profile. So if you want to connect to social media, the best place would be LinkedIn. Instagram, Facebook, all those are not required. Then a recommendation is to have chronological order of education. What does that mean? It means put your latest experience or degree on the first part, and then put your bachelor's degree below. So that way, it's an order. So clearly this person has done a master's degree. So the master's degree should come first, then bachelor's, and then high school. So that is the order that you need to have. And last but not least, don't talk about the negatives or the inexperience, because what happens is that we know that you are students. Some of you might not have the experience. So it's not required to mention that you don't have the experience. So that is another thing that I would say. So the last thing that I want to say is when it comes to this page of the resume is everything on your resume needs to be relevant to the job that you are applying. So if there are things that are not relevant, remove them and put in the relevant information. So does this make sense? Please provide your comments. Okay. So these are some of the recommendations. You can take down these as notes or pointers. Display contact information at the top of the resume. Sometimes I see people putting it at the bottom of the resume. Nobody looks at the bottom, so always put it on top. Have your first name, last name, phone number, email address, and your LinkedIn URL. There is a way to customize your LinkedIn URL. When you go into LinkedIn, you can have a URL. So if you go into my LinkedIn profile, Jonas Prasanna, you would see .linkedin.com/Jonas Prasanna, and that's how you can customize your LinkedIn URL. Ensure your email ID is updated and it's a professional email ID. Full address is not necessary. If you are into design or you are going and applying to a profession that requires a portfolio, whether it is a writing portfolio or a design portfolio, it's always good to include your website, a link, etc. And finally, other than LinkedIn, don't include Instagram, Facebook. Those are not required. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Jonas, sorry for interrupting you. So I think in the chat we have some questions.
Yeah.
The first question is from Izudin Al-Haq. How about nothing full name? Or maybe how if we only write the nickname maybe?
Uh, so over here, okay, good observation. Over here, I have not included the full name of the person because I wanted to protect their identity. That's why the full name is not mentioned. Otherwise, in your resume, you should have your full name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And next from Pak Mahros, that's mean we should provide a different CV special for a job we apply for.
Yeah. That's a good point. Maros, so you can have a standard resume. Let's say you are applying for a mechanical engineer job in specifically in fluid dynamics. Now, the person wants to know if you have fluid dynamics experience or not. So maybe you can add 1 or 2 lines about fluid dynamics, any research work that you have done, any paper that you have published. Those are extra information that you can modify. You don't need to completely change your resume. You can, based on the job that you are applying for, you can add a couple of points here and there to highlight the specific experience that you might have that is relevant to the job that you are applying. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
And once
Sometimes,
more, yeah,
yeah.
sometimes I have problem. What should I write if I have an experience job whereas my thesis title or an article is not one topic with my applies, but really wanted that position. So how about that?
Okay. So if you really wanted that position, then you have to do some work uh, to help you get that position. You cannot lie on your resume. That is a big no-no because people will find out. So what I would say is, if you really, you think a particular job is the best job for you, it will be the most perfect job, then during your university time, try and see how you can get some experience um, in that particular topic. You can ask your faculty for help if there is a faculty or a professor who is experienced, whom you can support on some research work, etc. You can also try and get practical experience by working on a project yourself, etc. So I would say that if you really know what is the job that you like, then you will find a way to try and get at least some experience, because then you have something to talk about. Employers, especially for those who are freshers who are coming into the organization, they don't expect you to be an expert, but they expect you to have at least a little bit of understanding on the topic or have some kind of practical experience. So that would be my advice to you, um, to get experience. Okay. Vella, is there any other questions?
I think that's it. Go ahead, Jonas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, so I also want to talk about education. Um, if you are a current student, mention your education experience before your experience, because then people will know what is the major that you are doing, what are the topics that you have worked on, etc. Lead with the most recent education. So if you're doing a postgrad, you're doing a PhD, put the PhD first, then postgrad, then undergrad. Indicate if you are doing, especially in your higher education, what are the degrees? Sometimes you might not have complete information, so you can always put. For me, the graduation date is important. because that is something that will let a prospective employer know from which date onwards you are available to join their organization. So if you are currently studying, you are expected to complete in 2024, then please mention the graduation month and year when you are expected to graduate. There are also extracurricular activities. For example, the team of organizers that helped to organize this lecture. Now, this is a good experience that you can put in your resume because you are working with an external company, you're working with the faculty, you're ensuring people are coming to the lecture. All of these things are important skills in a work environment because this talks about how you're working with others, how you are communicating, how you're showing leadership. All of those things are important. So if there are extracurricular activities in universities Jemar, I would highly encourage you to look at it because those are life skills that you can put on your resume. So different countries have different types of evaluation. So in India, it's percentages. In the US, it's GPA. So depending on what is relevant in your country, put that qualification. It's not necessary, but if you have a high GPA, then you can. It's like you're indicating to an employer that you are a good student. So you can also highlight any kind of academic honors. I personally feel that high school information may not be really required because unless you are just an undergraduate, but if you are already you are doing PhD or a post graduation, then required to talk about high school experience. So that is some important tips on education when it comes to your resume. Okay, great. Now, in the same resume, we are going to look at page 2 of the resume of this person. And the same activity that we have done, you need to let me know what are the good things about the resume and what are the things that are wrong in the resume. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. This session needs to be interactive because once you start asking me questions, then I know that you have understood the topic. Okay, same format, 60 seconds. Tell me what are the things that are good in the resume and what are the things that are wrong in this resume. This is page 2 of the resume of the same person. So I'll give you another 30 seconds. Please tell me what are the good things about the second page of the resume and what are the things that are wrong. Use the chat if you are comfortable. Okay, yes, Vela has said, please raised hand emoji or comment if you would like to contribute.
Yes, I see a hand over there. I mean, Izudin. Yeah, Izudin, please.
Okay. Okay. Anyone can hear my voice?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, may I contribute for this section? Maybe I want to mention about the good, uh, the, the good thing about this curriculum vitae. I think this person wants to apply something like data analyze or something like similar. The good thing is all of his skills that he have correlation with the applying for it. He mentioned all as like computer skill and the other things. But about fast learner and ability to work in a team, maybe it's the bad thing, are not good at all. And the good thing, the other thing is about the skills in detail. He takes some activities like in robotic, MATLAB, and the other thing, and languages. Languages, he mentioned English and Japan about the level. And about the bad thing, I want to mention, I want to mention he put his hobbies as like no correlation with his job, and about maybe extracurricular activities that it's no no correlation maybe, and there is no about the brief information as like his name, email, and phone number and LinkedIn. Maybe that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Izudin. Yeah, as I mentioned, this is the same resume that you had seen earlier, but this is page 2. So that's why the information on the name and other things are not available. But very good points. Thank you for sharing. If there are others, please put it in the chat. Just tell me what are the good things and things that are wrong just by looking at this page of the resume. Don't look at the past, only this page. So I will give you a list of things that I have observed. Okay. Number 1, and please use the chat to see if it makes sense. So extracurricular activities, as I mentioned, is a good thing because you need to really talk about what you have done extra, as part of your university life. But the way he's written it, he can expand on it a little bit. So what does Livingston Research do? What is the work that he's done in the Livingston Research? If he's a freelance writer, what has he written? Any kind of publications, or is it short stories? All of those things, if they could have mentioned that a little more, that would have been better. Language courses is always a useful skill that you can mention. So he mentioned Japanese, he studied it. So if you're applying to a Japanese company, maybe that is also a good positive. So those were a few things. Then, as Izudin had mentioned, he has expanded on the skills. So he has used MATLAB. And how did he actually use MATLAB? He used it to work on control system problems. He used MATLAB to work on automatic flight control, designing of the control systems. The person used Python for data analysis, as well as other tools in Python for doing that data analysis. The person also participated in robotic club, learning basic robotic programming languages like Arduino. So those are very good things. The wrong things are this rating scale. What does 1 star, 1 block mean? What does 2 block mean? What does 3, 4, 5? This is not easily understandable. So, there are many websites that will tell you make a graphics of, your resume, but that's really not required. It's difficult for people to understand what does fast learner mean? What does ability to work in a team on a rating scale? So those are things that we should try and avoid. Hobbies is not, if it is not relevant for the job that you're doing, then it does make sense to mention. Then you see over here, there is duplication and inconsistency in rating. So over here, he says fluent in English, 5 boxes. And over here, English is only 4 boxes. Japanese language is 2 boxes. Japanese is 1 box. So it needs to be consistent. This duplication first is not necessary. And secondly, if it is not consistent, then it looks really bad on the resume. Then this person has mentioned, I have some knowledge in web design and development. Now, what does some knowledge mean? Are you a learner? Are you an expert? Are you intermediate? So it's better if you don't have the knowledge, don't mention it. If you have basic knowledge, you can mention basic knowledge, but don't mention some knowledge. When it comes to your resume, is everything on your resume needs to be relevant for the job that you are applying. Okay, yeah, there are a few people who are mentioning email address, etc. As I mentioned, this is page 2 of the first resume that you saw. So the email address and name and other things are already mentioned there. Bella, is there any questions from the people in the live session, in the auditorium?
Yeah, any question? Hello. Not yet, maybe. Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Include, when it comes to experience, I know some of us might not have real world experience, but there are various ways you can put in experience. You can put in part-time employment. You can talk about internships. If some of you have served in the military, you can also mention your military experience, because especially if you're working in the armed forces, things related to leadership, working with people, leading a team, all of those things are relevant to any job. List your skills and accomplishments under each experience with bullet points. Do not write long paragraphs. The better way would be to organize it as bullet points. Deliver information using short phrases. What do I mean by that? A lot of time we write full sentences, but when you have a resume, there is only limited space in your resume. So it's important to put the key points there. You don't need to form full sentences of your experience. For example, say I have worked on MATLAB for designing control systems. So you can say MATLAB, used MATLAB in designing control systems. So that is the meaning of short phrases. So that's what I mean by that. This is a very interesting tip. Utilize the relevant keywords from the job description and action verbs. So I have some action verbs that you can use. And I understand English is not your first language. But this is a quick tip. Say, for example, they are expecting people, the job description should be a team player and be able to work with people from different nationalities. Now, think about your experience. Have you worked with anybody from different nationalities, who are not Indonesian, who are maybe Japanese, Cambodian, Vietnamese, Malaysian, people from Thailand? So that is also something that you can, if you have, if you have done any kind of project with people from different nationalities, that is also an example where you can showcase to the prospective employer that in a project I had team of 5 different people from 5 different nationalities, and I was able to work on this thing. In your accomplishment statement, highlight what was your unique contribution. Many times I see in a resume that you have worked on on a project. The project had 5 different people. Now it's important to talk about what was your contribution in that project. Say, for example, you were able to automate elements of the project using Python language. So that is a unique skill, unique contribution that you bring to the table. Very important, do not exaggerate. What does exaggerate mean? It is do not lie or misrespect, represent your experience. Do not use personal pronouns. Like, what do I mean by that? It is I facilitated training. Just say facilitated sales training, if that is what you meant, because it is not required in a resume. Any questions? Okay. What are the optional sections? Now, for example, you have done some volunteer experience. You have done fundraising. So talk about that. That is a very important skill. If you have membership, certification, awards, those are another important things. Say, for example, you attended a conference. Talk about, so you attended a conference. You can write a short article on, what is the learnings that you've got from that conference. And you can put that link in the resume. So that is something that people will do. If you are fluent in many different languages, that is also something that you can look at. If there are publications, patents, or other works, if you have specialized skills, that is, you can, operate some major equipment, that is also something that you can talk about. Technical proficiencies is also something that you can talk about. Do not include personal information, age, religion, marital status. Those are not required in your resume. So those are a few things. If there are any questions, happy to answer that. If not, we'll move on. Okay. Now, this is a different resume. This is another person's resume. So we will do another review of the case study. Now, by this time, you guys are experts. You know what is the good thing and what is the bad thing, that wrong thing that you can see in your resume. So we will do this activity. Okay. Again, 60 seconds. This is a different type of resume. Let's look at what are the good things and bad things about this resume. Okay, we'll give it another 30 seconds. Please use the chat. Okay, good thing. QR code, bad thing, photo. Okay. Sorry. So we look at the good things and bad things. So he has mentioned work experiences. He's worked as, so number one, I've covered the name because I don't want to reveal the identity of this individual. So his name was there. But his resume is slightly different. This is a design student. So he has to be visual. So there is work experiences that are listed. So if you look at it, he's done student projects. He's worked as an urban planner assistant, worked as a surveyor, has done accreditation, and has worked in freelance as a urban designer. He's also listed achievements as student experiences, that is students association, done volunteering, done public speaking. He has a QR code linked to the design portfolio. Now, this is again another important thing, because as an urban planner, you need to be able to show your portfolio to your employer. So that is a good thing. The person has done certified skill courses, which are listed here, and has mentioned volunteering. So there are good positives about this resume. He also has a clear statement. He's an urban planner who's interested in urban design, transportation, low energy usage, urban planning, green infrastructure. So this kind of tells what are his interest areas and what he likes to do. If you look at it, address is short and crisp, professional LinkedIn, professional email ID, and he's also put Instagram, but maybe the Instagram is like his design portfolio. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. What are the negatives? The problem with this kind of resume, although it looks very nice and visually, visually nice, it is difficult to understand what are the critical experiences. He's just put titles of the experience. Now, what is the student projects that he's worked on? What is the work or accomplishments that he has got as an urban planner assistant? What is the work that he has done as a surveyor? Has he worked in companies before? All of those things, it leaves a lot of questions in the mind. You are not able to understand or quantify the contributions of this individual. There is no contact number. So his resume is beautiful, but there is no way to call the person and ask him to come for an interview. This is a big, big, big no. And the student project experiences are, listed here, but the work experiences are listed below. So ideally, work should come slightly above, because he's passed out in 2021, done his master's. So he has got some work experience. So the work experience needs to come up, because he's not a recent graduate. So those are some of the observations. Yes, photo arrangement, working experience is too bad, too much element picture. Yes, now you are understanding what are the things that are going wrong. Very good. So please continue to put it in the chat. So this is something that is important. Have a standard font in blank throughout your resume. So you could use Times New Roman, you could use Arial, different types of font types, ideally in black, because then it's easier to read. Use font size that is consistent. So recommended size would be 11 or 12. Have consistent spacing, text alignment. So most of the students here would write research papers. When you're writing research papers, there is a clear guideline provided by the faculty in terms of how you need to write a research paper: spacing, alignment, font size, type of font, etc. Similarly, use the same concepts, same guidelines when it comes to writing your resume. If you're using abbreviations or acronyms, include the full word. That is very important. If you are a student with no experience other than your studies and your education experience, keep your resume to 1 page. There is no need to go beyond 1 page. If you have vast experience, you can still keep it in 1 page, but you can go up to 2 pages. Anything more than 2 pages, nobody is going to read. Because keep in mind, again, there is only 15 to 30 seconds that a recruiter or a hiring manager will spend time reading your resume. So it's important to have the information listed in a single place. So any questions?
Yeah, students in auditorium, any questions?
Okay, moving on. This is the last tip that I would want to give you. Check for spelling and grammar. Employers have zero tolerance for spelling mistakes on your resume. One of the tips that I always use is I ask a friend to review your resume for grammar or spelling errors. Because what will happen is sometimes when you are just reading the same resume over and over again, we tend to miss out on the spelling mistakes, on the grammar in your resume. So always have a friend to come and review your resume. If you're not comfortable sharing your resume, then what I would say is take a printout of your resume, have a hard copy, and review it, read it out. So that will give you an idea of what are the issues, etc. So don't skip this step. Always print out a hard copy of your resume and then review it. It's recommended that you save it as a PDF. Sometimes Word does not open. So PDF is the safe option. So that way your font, formatting, all of those things don't get disturbed. And it's always a good idea to mention your full name, resume, and the date when you prepared your resume. So then you know a timestamp. Okay, so that concludes the formal part of the resume lecture, the circular vitae and resume lecture. Are there any questions before I go to the last part?
Yeah, anyone? So I think you should raise the question. You know that we have Jonas here. Yeah, he is, he is one of top 20 HR influencers on social media by SHRM India. So I think this is the best opportunity to you. So you guys should raise a question. Anyone? Yeah, I see in the chat box, Jonas, from Ahmad Shahrullah. So please, how do I include educational qualifications and certifications on my CV when applying for a job in a country with a different education or certification system?
Good question. This happens for a lot of international students. So there are a couple of ways that I would recommend doing this. First, understand how they, so for example, let's take, I will take India, I'll compare India and USA. So for example, I am applying for a job in the USA. So in India, my undergraduation is called bachelor's. Is it the same in Indonesia?
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it bachelor's, correct? And then we call masters. But in the US, they don't understand bachelor's. So they call it undergrad and postgrad. So next to your education qualification, you can also mention, this is my undergrad and this is my postgrad or master's. So that way they understand, what it means in your country as well as in their country.
Okay, so Jonas, before moving on, I have a basic question actually. So what is actually the difference between CV and resume?
Yeah. So in a CV, it is essentially an expanded form of a resume. There are only a few differences when it comes to that. There is a longer explanation when it comes to a curriculum vitae, which has details about information that is on an expanded form, essentially. It is, from a resume point of view, different people use the terms slightly differently. For example, a CV may be something that you use in Indonesia. People call it resume in different countries. So it's essentially used interchangeably. That's the big difference between a curriculum vitae and a resume. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. Okay, go ahead.
One more thing from I just remembered between a curriculum vitae and a resume. A resume focuses more on the practical applications when you are applying against a job. A curriculum vitae, if you are applying for research type of jobs, where you need to expand on your academic part or the qualifications or the certifications. You want to talk about publications in journals, research papers. Then if it is little more academically oriented and you're applying for an academic role, a curriculum vitae is the right format. If you're applying to organizations, companies, private companies, etc., then which focuses more on the practical experience, then a resume is required. Does that help, Valya?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, we have another questions in the chat
Great
box.
question.
Yeah. Why hobbies is a negative statement in resume, even though HR can consider whether the hobby interferes with his work or not for his work if you accept.
Okay. No, great question. So what I would say is everything on your resume needs to help you get the job, right? If you feel that the hobby will help you get the job, then it makes sense. If it does not help you get the job, then my question to you is, why would you want to put it there? Throughout my presentation, I have mentioned, ensure everything on your resume is relevant for the job that you are applying. So that would be my response to why you need to include hobbies. Say, for example, I'll give you an example. You have applied to work with Nike or Adidas or Puma. Now, Nike, Adidas, Puma are into lifestyle, they are into sports, they are into those kind of industries. Then it makes sense to have hobbies like cross-country running, athletics, track and field. Those kind of things then make sense because then they know that you have used their product, you know about the industry, you are passionate about this. That is where you can link a hobby with the practical experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonas.
Okay. All right. So I'll go to the last part, which is Boeing university relations. Just to give you an idea of various different universities. This year, we have started engaging with colleges in Indonesia because we have set up our office in Indonesia. So this needs to be updated to include your country as well. But this is the annual recruiting cycle for US. So typically we do demand planning in the second quarter of the year, that is March, April, May for the next year, where we understand what are the demands. We do the fall recruitment. There is also internship programs. We do the interviews and offers, as well as the spring recruitment. Now, this varies from country to country. In each of the country, there is, individuals that head the university relations piece. So if you need more details about that, in a follow-up thing, I'll request Veronica to help me out over here in terms of who are the right people to help you get in touch. But the good thing is, we do now have a presence in Indonesia. There is also an active work that we are doing in terms of working with universities. So that's definitely a positive thing. And last but not least, I wanted to give you a few links that will be helpful for you. Number one, I know English is not your first language. So there are tools like Grammarly that will scan through your resume and will give you tips on how to improve the grammar, sentence formation, and it does a spell check. So those are three things that it will do. So you can use Grammarly, put your resume in Grammarly, and it will give you tips on how to improve your resume. Second, there is also some of the top universities in the world have resume formats. You don't need to copy it, but it will give you an idea of what are the formats that are used in different universities. So then you can tailor it to the way that you feel makes sense. So those are a few final tips that I want to provide to the students in universities Jambai. Okay, that comes to my end of my presentation. If there are further questions, happy to take it.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas, for your insightful presentation. And I'm sure that our audience, students especially, has learned a lot from you today. So we still have time. Now let's open the floor for questions from our audience, our students. So for students in auditorium, please raise your hand if you have a question and wait for microphone to reach you. And for participants who join Zoom, the easiest way to let me know is to use the raise hand emoji. So please use the raise hand emoji or a comment in the chat if you would like to contribute to the discussion or if you have any question. Yeah, anyone in the auditorium? Or in the Zoom? I don't know, maybe the students is kind of shy maybe.
Yeah, if it's okay, they can ask the question in Bahasa.
Yeah,
and you can translate that to me.
Yeah.
That's also fine.
Ya, silakan kalau ada pertanyaan. Nggak apa dari bahasa nggak apa, nanti saya translate. Ada nggak? Ah, ya silakan. Ayolah, silakan, nggak ada pertanyaan. Ya, siapa? Yeah, actually we have around 100 participants attending here in auditorium, and also we have over than 100 participants who are joining us virtually from different places. So, yeah, anyone? Siapa tadi? Aduh, ada nggak? Ayo. Ya, ayo. Okay, anyone from Zoom maybe? Ya, ayo, silakan. You guys should raise a question. Ya, ayo. Okay, Jonas, while we're waiting, maybe I have some question maybe. So I have heard that about the ATS or applicant tracking system. So is that system is really exists, and then the HR will filter the CV from the kind of system or something like that?
Yeah, application tracking system does exist. All large organizations have it because they use it because of the volume of resumes. For every job application, you get about 300 resumes. If you have 10 job applications, that is 3,000 resumes that a person needs to look at. So they do use an application tracking system to filter the resumes. That is why it is important to have your resume in a standard format. That way, the application tracking system can actually understand your resume and tell if it is the right fit for the job. Now, with AI, it becomes even more important that it is put in the right format, so it's easy to read. So you find a lot of resume websites which have fancy graphics, which say do your resume in different types of fonts, styles, etc. That is not helpful because you want the recruiter or a hiring manager in 15 to 30 seconds to say, yes, this is the right person for me that I need to interview. And if you put it in a lot of graphics, then they are struggling to find where the information is. So that is something that I would tell you as a tip. Choose the standard format and you will find much better success.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. Okay, I see there is hand over there. Pak Mahros.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Nanti diterjemahkan Pak Bella. kira-kira kalau kita apply satu pekerjaan itu, jadi recruiter itu apa yang paling menarik untuk dilihat? Misalnya seperti Boeing ini kan mesti yang apply banyak. Kira-kira yang disortir pertama apa? Terima kasih.
Okay, so I think this about what is the first thing that the recruiter will filter? What is the stuff? I mean, what is the maybe not only the document but also the thing that is really important that the recruiter will filter from the CV maybe, or maybe the keywords, something like that.
Yeah. So say the job, let's take an example. Now I'm applying to a mechanical designer job in XYZ company. It says that you need to have 2 years of experience. Now, the first thing that the recruiter will look at, does the person match the job description? If it says, I need 2 years of experience, work experience, and I need a master's, then I will look at the resume and see if there is a master and if there is 2 years of experience. If the person does not fit that, then I put that resume to the side. Now, what I'm sharing with you might seem very harsh, but that is the actual truth. If your resume does not match the requirement of the job, they will not take you ahead. So that is number one. Second, if the job says you have 2 years of experience and masters, but you have 10 years of experience, again, it will not match because the job does not require a very senior person. So it's important to be within the range. So if you have 2 years, 1.5, 3 years, that's the range that people will be looking at. So it is entirely dependent on the job description, what the requirements are from the job description, and the to match it with your resume.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. Pak Maros?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Got
Pak
it.
Maros. Oke, next Pak Asrofi, silakan Pak Asrofi.
Suara saya terdengar jelas ya Pak Wela?
Ya, jelas.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wela, for this chance. Good morning from Indonesia, Mr. Jonas. I'm Asrofi. I just want a question about CV. Yeah, but this is outside the topic regarding CVs. According to Jonas' experience, which social media determine job seekers the fastest? LinkedIn, or is there something else? Because we know that our job seekers apply via email and other social media. But I think in globalization era, job seekers might apply via LinkedIn. How about this social media channels? Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of people apply via LinkedIn. They also apply via job boards. So when companies post a job, what happens is that they automatically connect it, the job posting, to a few different places. Number one, they connect it to their careers website. So every organization has a careers website. So what is a careers website? In the organization's web page, there is a section that is mentioned careers. So I'll give you an example. Let me stop sharing. And I will just show you. Just 1 minute. let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, Jonas.
So this is the careers website, jobs.boeing.com. Now, this is where all the jobs gets posted in Boeing. So you can explore all jobs. You can look at manufacturing and quality in Boeing. You can type the location, type the keyword, and then search for jobs. Like this, there are every single company, any large big organization has a career page. So you can always register on the career page, and as and when different jobs get posted, you will get a notification on email. We also have a section for contract jobs. So you can also apply for contract jobs. There is apprenticeship programs and various different types of information relevant to the job seeker that is available in Boeing. Now I'm talking about my company. Like that, there are many other companies that are there, and they also have similar kind of information. So LinkedIn is a good way. The company's career site is a good way to find jobs, as well as job sites.
Okay, thank you, Jonas.
Okay, thank you, Pak Asrofi, Jonas. So back to the chat, we have a question from Sultan Nalindra. So in this CV is important in a job interview. Can you rate the importance of the CV for the interviewer to be able to accept us?
Yeah. So there are two things. One is the interview and the application. Now, let me call out the difference between both of these things. As I mentioned, the purpose of a resume or a CV is to help you get the interview. It is to help you get inside the door. Once you enter the door, then it all depends on how you perform in it, how you are able to answer the questions. If you are able to answer the questions, then they will accept you. So, so your CV will help you knock on the door and help you open the door. But once you enter, it's up to you to get the job.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, from Bu Veronica. If you are applying for a contract position, how should resume differ for someone applying for a permanent position?
Yeah. So if you're applying for a contract position, for me, it doesn't differ that much because the difference is in the type of employment. But sometimes the contract jobs are skill-based jobs. For example, somebody working in as an assembler, as a mechanic. Those could be types of contract jobs. There could be other different types of contract jobs. But for me, it's not so much different because they still require a resume. Sometimes they will call you and ask you to perform a skills test to see if you can actually perform the job. So that would be my explanation, Veronica. If you have anything else to add, please do.
Okay, wonderful, Jonas. Okay, next. Usually CV is talking about plus and minus about ourselves. So the question is how to explain the minus, but it's not impact negative for our CV.
So I would say, why do you want to talk about minus? Talk about plus. So if you put minus in your CV, then it will impact you. So don't put the minus, put only the plus.
Yeah, so we don't need to to mention about our minus, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, from Anggit Purnomo, what is the important thing to prepare as a fresh graduate to have a good CV when totally we don't have any experience?
Yeah. As I mentioned, Ankit, that it's important to look at your entire university experience, not only from a studies perspective. Studies is good, you get the marks, you show the results. But while you are in the university, you are participating in extracurricular activities, you're organizing programs, you're doing various different things. You are organizing college fests. So those are experiences that you can talk about in your CV. Say, for example, you are working on projects, you are working on thesis. Those are things that you can talk about because we understand as a fresh graduate, you don't have the work experience. But I would also say people who are successful, they go above and beyond their current university work. So while I was doing my MBA, I'll give you a personal example. I volunteered with a training company on my weekends. So Saturday and Sunday, I used to go to that training company and do work on the training area. That is, I helped with the facilitation. So initially, they did not give me the facilitation job. They gave me work related to attendance, logistics, etc. Then after a few months, they gave me bigger work. And I all did this during my weekends, Saturday and Sunday. So Monday to Friday, I had college, and then my weekends I spent on doing this. So if you want to have experience and differentiate yourself from the rest of the people that are there in your class, then you need to do extra things. And those extra things can be mentioned in your resume.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. So any other question? Okay, from Hamzah Ibnu Yasin. For filtered search, which is actually more important between recent education and experience, for example, the last educational qualification is a bachelor's degree, but actually has taken a master's degree because according to people's talk, the company did not dare to take master's education in a new position.
I can't answer this. I don't understand the question. If your job description says that master's is required, then master's is required. If your job description says bachelor is required, then bachelor is required. But I don't know. I cannot answer this question.
Yeah, maybe this related to the Indonesian case, just because in several company, the company tend to recruit the graduates based on the bachelor degree instead of master degree, like that.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jonas. Okay, anyone in auditorium? Ayo, siapa? Silakan. Harus ada ini. Ya, silakan. Coba.
Yeah. Introduce my name is Dika. I'm from mechanical engineer. Mungkin menggunakan bahasa saja, mungkin karena tidak pede menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Apakah ada perbedaan antara CV yang digunakan untuk perusahaan dan untuk lembaga pendidikan seperti melamar beasiswa dan lain sebagainya? Dan apakah ada yang perlu diunggulkan? Begitu. Terima kasih.
Yeah. Okay, so he tried to ask about is there any difference between CV for scholarship or CV for a company?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, a CV for scholarship, for university, for for academic areas, needs to focus a lot on your contributions, your research contributions, your academic contributions, the papers that you have worked for, the projects that you have done. While when you are applying for companies, the focus then is more on practical experience. How have you used the experience, the learnings that you have taught and applied it in a practical scenario? So that's the big difference. So for scholarships, CVs needs to be focused on the research, on the academic performance, on those topics, while for applying to private companies, it is more focused on the practical experience.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. Jawab pertanyaannya? Okay, yeah. Okay, moving on in the chat box. If we have experience in a field such as aerospace, what must be prepared and highlighted in the resume and while interview to apply for such as the aerospace industry? Thank you.
Yeah. So as you rightly said, if you have experience in aerospace, then you need to talk about the aerospace experience. Aerospace is pretty vast, so you need to talk about what in aerospace have you done? Which area? Is it fluid dynamics? Is it control systems? Is it flight control? There are so many different areas. So talk about that specific thing, and it needs to be relevant to the job that you are applying for. Just don't mention simply that you've worked on all these different things. If there is a requirement for flight control systems, then talk about flight control systems. So that would be my advice. Based on the job description, mention details around that specific area.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. Yeah, anyone else? That's it? Okay, maybe, yeah. Okay, maybe the last question, Jonas. So can you give a suggestion or advice for job seekers, maybe? I mean, especially for the fresh graduate.
Yeah, my advice is to two things. One is every opportunity, so especially when it comes to fresh graduates, don't look at rejection as be all and end all. Rejection is just a first step to help you improve, because the next round you will get better. So, don't feel bad that you get rejected, because there are hundreds and thousands of people applying for opportunities. Only one person gets the job. So use that as an opportunity to get better, to help you take that next step. I did not get my first job in my first try. Veronica also, I can speak of her experience, that it took many times to try, practice, and then finally be able to crack an interview. So that would be my advice. Don't give up. There are millions of jobs in the world. There are millions of people in the world. You'll find the right job for you.
Yeah, wonderful, Jonas. Thank you. Okay. Oh, last but not the least, from our Vice Dean, Pak Gaku. So what advice did Mr. Jonas give when facing the interview test, especially in attitude, how to look into the eyes and so on?
Okay. So with an interview, the purpose of an interview is to understand from the other person what they have done. Okay. An interview is not a one-way conversation. You can also ask questions. Like how Vela is asking me questions and I'm giving a response. I can also ask as an interviewee, that is as an applicant, I can also ask questions. So don't treat an interview as something stressful. I know you want the job and you are looking forward to it, but it is a conversation between two people. So when you are having a conversation, you can ask questions, I can ask questions. So treat it as a conversation. Automatically looking into the eyes, confidence, all of these things will happen automatically when you are having a conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we still have question. Once more. From Pak Asrofi, this outside the topic of CV, and it is a case study. When we apply to the good company, Boeing, for example, automatically we have to compete with all of job seekers. Does graduating from a university affect the acceptance of a job? Does recruiter have its own assessment of applicants? Are you sure that recruiter is working objectively according to the CV? Does a job seeker need a recommendation?
Yeah. See, there are so many questions in this. What I would say is the recruiter is looking at who would be the right person to fill the job. That is all that the recruiter is concerned about. Out of a pool of 300 candidates, he just needs one person to be able to fill the job. Okay. So it might seem that it's, there are questions on objectivity, but the way that the interview process is that we always ensure that there is a diverse panel. We also, what do I mean by a diverse panel? So there are multiple people in the panel. It's not just one person. There are multiple rounds of interviews. So that way, there is an objective element when it comes to applying. With regards to universities, I might not be able to comment on that. What I would say is, if you have the right kind of experience, then you have a good shot at getting the job. Beyond that, no, it's at the end of the day, as I mentioned, there are a number of people applying to the job, and only one person gets the job at the end of the day.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Jonas. Okay, so I think time is up. Yeah. Thank you very much, Jonas, for your excellent answers and for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. So give a round of applause for Jonas, students. Yeah. Okay, so I'm sure that our students, our participants today has gained a lot of valuable insights from you today. So I think before we close this session, I think I do not need to summarize about what you are saying. Yeah. So I would like to thank our speakers once again, Jonas Prasanna, for their time and expertise. Thank you very much, Jonas. And I would also like to thank the organizers and Boeing, Bu Veronica, Bu Veronica, Pak Dudi, Pak Bram. Thank you so much. For making this general lecture possible. So finally, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. I do hope that you have learned something new and useful from this lecture. And please fill out the feedback form that we will be distributed shortly in the chat box, because your feedback is important for us to improve our future events. Thank you very much and have a great day. Thank you, Jonas, Bu Veronica.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Jonas. Terima kasih.
Have a good day. Sama-sama. Sampai nanti ya minggu depan. Bye-bye semua.
Bye-bye. Terima kasih, Bu.
Terima kasih. Dadah.
Thank you.